Please feel free to ask as many questions as you can. You know my name already. You see me in the other courses that I've taught you and those that I'm already teaching you. So I'm not going to take much of the time to introduce myself. Okay. I want us to look at how you can do a good research in business analytics. And I have all of these books. I'm sure some of these books you've already seen them, but I have these books for you to look at so that you can appreciate what is happening. Now, for now, there are a few things I want to find out from you. Which of you here does not have a research topic so far? Which of you here does not have a research topic right now? Other than that, I'm going to assume that all of you have got a research topic. Class rep, can you confirm that?
Yes, it seems everyone has.
Excellent. Okay, so I'll be speaking as though you have a class topic, a topic that you have selected. These are some of the topics that some of you may have. In fact, these are topics that you can actually do your thesis on. And so in case you don't have a topic, these are potential ones. For example, the determinants of subscriber attrition in the Ghanaian telecom industry or in a particular company. You can talk about companies or company. That is a typical research question, that has to do more with churning, how to, consider the factors that make people churn. Another is in the form of a question, market segmentation study. How can we segment customers based on their purchasing behavior? Okay. That is more of a qualitative and clustering approach that one can use. The third one is our time series forecasting. This is a typical research that one can do, an empirical study on the predictive models for monthly sales performance at Bogas, that furniture company, where you would have to use ARIMA and long short-term memory. And the other one is about ethical applications of AI, analyzing ethical challenges of algorithmic bias in HR analytics. So this is a typical research that does literature review and expert interviews to be able to come out with some directions for further research. I'm going to ask two of you to tell me your research topic that you have selected. I'm going to do a random sample of you. Ricky Nelson, are you here? Ricky Nelson. Ricky Nelson. Ricky, are you here with us? Ricky Nelson, are you here? Classroom, do you know Ricky Nelson?
Yes, I do.
Could you find out exactly why she's not responding? Because if she's not responding, it means she's not here, so she cannot be added. Okay. Why is she not responding? Could you find out exactly why she's not responding? Sorry?
Yes, I'm doing that now.
You said what? I need to be sure that people are here.
I'm finding out.
Okay, find out. I need to be sure that people are truly here and not that they have just logged in and left themselves. Otherwise, I have to put some of them on call waiting. All right, so let me go to Quentin Constance. Are you here, Quentin?
Yes, sir.
Exactly. I like people that respond because they are here. What is your research topic?
Okay, so please, I'm doing something on corporate's willingness to adopt electric vehicles.
Okay. Are you doing interview? What method are you using?
No, not interview, questionnaires. So I'm going to design a questionnaire for corporations to fill.
Okay. All right. Innocent. Aka, what is your topic about?
Okay, good evening, Doctor. My topic is about cross-selling online platform. So I'm using a case study of a particular online and see how we can use business analytics tools to segment their develop a strategic marketing tool for them in the sense that they segment their customers. One, two, they also have using RFM to develop after clustering it, looking at how to forecast the sales that will be coming based on historical data.
Okay.
Yeah, something along this.
All right. Valentina Edifo. I hear Valentina. Valentina.
Well, please, I'm here.
Okay. What are you doing? What is your topic about?
Okay, I'm doing comparative sales performance analysis of beverage brands. So I'm picking a supermarket to use them as a case study.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
Ricky, are you back? Ricky Nelson, are you back?
Hello, Doc. Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, my topic is on the role of machine learning and in tourism development.
Okay, Ricky, stay on the call because I'll call you again because I could see that you weren't paying attention.
Okay, I had some issue with the line. I wasn't hearing well. That was why kind of.
All right. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So, guys, you'll be presenting about your work next week. So, you're going to present your work, your proposal. You're going to present that next week, this time. So, please get prepared with that. You're going to do that presentation. Some of you will be presenting along the line. You're going to use a period of 5 minutes to 10 minutes to do that presentation. I'll decide exact time and let you know. But the shorter you do it, the best. So please prepare your slide in such a way that you can do a very good presentation of your work. Some of you, the way you will start, will look at your slide, 1, 2, 3, 4, whichever number you have. And just after looking at the slide, we will know whether you should present it or you shouldn't present it. Because sometimes the way you write your slide is an indication that you know exactly what you are doing. So that will indicate whether you should present the introduction and the conclusion of your proposal. Or for some, you have to present the whole proposal. So please take note of that for next week. All right. So what is the scope? At this stage, I want to assume that you have figured out your research area, you know your topic, you know your motivation, you know your problem. I also want to believe that you are in consultation with your supervisor, you have finalized your proposal, and you are working on your background problem, project, all of that. So the focus of today's lecture is to share some ideas on how to do writing. Most of the time, people don't start writing early, their research. They delay because they don't even know what to write. I'll also discuss, you understand, the ethics of AI use. How are you using your AI in the best possible way so that you do not look like you're a plagiarizer? there is a way you use AI, we will know. Okay? I have an AI that catches AI users. So how should you best use your artificial intelligence, your chat GPT, so that it will help you? To do a very good writing, before you start, the more you talk to your supervisor, the more your research writing is going to be great. Your work before you see your supervisor is always going to be crying. Each time you speak to your supervisor, you will get a better shape of your work. So the consideration here is for you to always speak to your supervisors, because the more you speak to them, the better your understanding. So write your background and write it well. What goes into your background are the following. Let us know what is motivating the study. Make it exciting. It could be some statistics that you want to do. It could be about talking about why that thing you are doing is important. So if you are trying to look at churn, or you want to look at fraud detection, indicate why fraud is a big deal and why detecting fraud is a big deal. Let the reader know that this matter is a big deal. And how do you do? Sometimes you have to give facts and figures. For example, when fraud was detected, $240 million were detected as fraud, blah, 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 in this company or in this industry or in this country. And as a result of that, we can see, give multiple examples, and then we can see why detecting fraud is a big issue. Give the essence of your key concepts, your method or industry, and then the state of affairs. Let us know. Okay? Let us know what you are really doing. And make the work exciting. Don't do it like an academic study. Do it because you have the passion for it. You have the passion. And let the reader know how your work is going to benefit everyone who is reading it. Now, please let me give you some quick one. Make a citation when you make your first sentence. Make another citation in your second sentence. Make an in-text citation again in your third sentence. Be used to citing a lot so much that when somebody sees your work, the person will say, Abba, you have cited too much. Your first paragraph, your first page should be so much inundated with citation that it shows the reader that you are well read. Because some students think that when you don't cite or when you cite a lot, people think that you are not adding your voice. So they will not be citing a lot. It's a lie. It is rather when you cite a lot, it means that you're a good researcher. Take note of that. So first sentence, second sentence, third sentence, fourth sentence, that is where the citation must come in a lot. It shows that you are well read. Take note. Okay. Now, in your problem statement, there are some few things you want to take note of. Remember, after the background, you should have your problem statement. The problem statement is a statement. Yes, Innocent.
Yeah, Doc, my question has to do with the citation. If, be it at the master's level, PhD level, how far back should you go in terms of the literature that you are citing? The 10 years, 15 years, is that relevant, or it should be within a particular time range?
All right. The best is always go 6 years backward. However, there are some specific theories, methods, new revelations in the world that were postulated some years back. For example, let's say that you are discussing something on long short-term memory, or you are discussing something on Hort-Winter's, triple exponential smoothing method. That's what you are discussing. And this was postulated in 1957. He's a man behind. He brought it up. He is a brainchild of this. You cannot say that because it's 1957, you cannot bring that paper because it's old. So when you are talking about some specific things that have their originators, the propounders, the real original authors. Those you got to go back. Other than that, do from 2020 coming, do much more recent, and consider that the papers you are citing are more of 3 stars and above. Unless in some extenuating circumstances you bring some 2 stars. But always make sure that you are beefing up your work with 3 stars and above. If you don't know about this ABS journal ranking stars, please ask, and I'll put it there for you. Because everybody is supposed to have it. All the journals are listed in there. So when you are citing a journal, you should check that record to see that it is in it and it is in that star. Innocent, does that address your question?
Yes, please.
All right. Your problem, state it as a problem. And one way to state the problem as a problem is something like this. Of the many gaps or problems that have been identified in the extant literature, the following are worth noting. First, there is a lack of studies that have investigated the association between A and B. Second, very few studies have examined the impact of A and B. Third, so you are using these linkers to help the reader know the problem. This is stating the problem. State the problem as a problem. State it. And then later you're going to learn that you should indicate also why is the problem a problem. Why is the problem a problem? You're not going to talk about the solutions. No, you are just making the problem big to the reader. And you want to be specific about a problem. Okay. So you got to identify the problem. And the only way you can see that you've identified the problem is use numerical linkers. First, second, third. Use those things to let the reader know that, oh, you have 4 gaps you have identified in the literature. You are actually discussing what is already known, okay, about a problem. And you're also discussing why or what do we still have to know. You're also indicating whether they are inconclusive or unexplored evidences. Which stakeholders stand to lose or gain if the problem remains unexplored? For example, okay, not being able to detect fraud can result in multiple blah, 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 blah. This gap is addressed in this study. So let the reader know that for each gap, you have indicated that it is a gap and that is what you intend to do. It is a problem. This issue, this problem, this gap is addressed in the study. So in short, follow these 3 principles. What is a problem? Why is a problem a problem? Okay. What is a problem? Why is a problem a problem? Okay. Don't just say that is a problem without letting us know why it is a problem. Okay. For example, very few studies have looked at Ghana. Don't just say very few studies have looked at Ghana. Maybe there's a good reason why they haven't looked at Ghana, because the data is not there. So you say very few studies have not looked at Ghana because of lack of data or lack of relevant specific data you mentioned, because of lack of data related to this. However, until recently, we didn't know, but these data have now been obtained, which now will let the reader know that that is why you want to fill in that gap. So make the problem a problem. I'll give you a couple of examples to appreciate this. A gap, a problem, a conflict, a disagreement, all of these are problems. Now, if you are stating the problem as a problem, make it poignant. If it is a practical problem, say that there is a gap, a practical gap in the literature associated with this. This study, will try to investigate the theoretical gap a conceptual gap. There is another problem of methodological gap, or there is another methodological gap, that is using traditional methods instead of using machine learning methods, such as random forest, decision trees, support vector machine. You got to indicate to the reader that it's a methodological gap. Now, if you don't understand most of these gaps, you want to just look at them. Saunders actually gives a number of these gaps. And note that there's a difference between a methodological gap and an empirical gap. Note that there's a difference between an industry gap. So maybe a particular approach has been applied in multiple industries, but it's not being specifically applied in the telecom industry. It's an industry gap. Or it's been applied in Europe. Somebody muted me, eh? Hey. I hope you guys were listening. I just realized that I've been muted. Classwork, are you there?
Please,
Sorry?
you're audible.
So that is what I mean. Don't say that it's not been applied in Africa. Indicate why it's not been applied in Africa. Due to what? What could be the reason? Then you are coming to it, then you are filling in a continental gap. It could also be a country gap. It could be even a company gap. It could even be a gap related to period. For example, previous studies have all looked at from the 90s and 2000. Okay? Recent data covering from 2010 up to 2024 is lacking to substantiate the evidence. This study fills that gap. Oh yes, getting more expansive data set is considered as a very good gap, if it is not there. Okay. So some of the gaps could be a concept, like the conceptual gap, that has not been closely examined. It could be a relationship between X and Y that has not been clearly comprehended in the literature. For example, corporate social responsibility, the definition of it is not clear, is broad, okay? But the way some consider corporate social responsibility is different. Some look at it from economic view, some look at it from political view, some look at it from social view. How is it? The definition is multidimensional, and you want to now dissect, define, because definition is your understanding of the component, composition, dimension, and the value of a concept for further modification for personalized use. And so you want to make it clear to the reader. Sometimes there's a drawback of a model. A model has been used consistently, but that model did not consider something. For example, you could be looking at a forecasting model that deals with levels. But what about a situation when there's a trend and not just levels? What about a situation where there's seasonality? Okay. And the previous models have not considered seasonality. And so you are now indicating that previous studies have looked at levels and trends, but not season. And so you want to capture season in the word. That is a very wonderful, drawback, gap, problem that you want to look at. So these are some of the gaps that one can actually engage in a lot of citation when you are dealing with the gaps. Okay? Engage in a lot of citation. I'll give you a sentence that could look like you're talking about a gap. Several studies have examined the connection between A, B, and C. Well, anytime you use the word several studies, please, you got to give survey papers, or you got to cite at least 5 papers. Because such words, numerous, several, a lot of, such words are very, very serious words. And you want the reader. But we identify some gaps in the literature first, and then you start. You see, your problem statement has to be so poignant, so precise and concise that you don't want the reader to be hanging around when you have not stated the problem. Remember, please, it is a problem statement. It's got to be stated and then elucidated. So you need to understand the problem fully. I want to ask you guys, these two amphibians that you see here, which one of them is a crocodile and which one of them is an alligator? Who can tell us? Which one of them is a crocodile, okay, and which one of them is an alligator? Who has an answer? Emmanuel.
Doc, I think the right one is a crocodile and the left one is an alligator.
The right one is a crocodile.
Yeah, and the left one is an alligator.
Okay. Why?
Normally crocodiles, they have sharp pointed mouth and their jaws are very strong. So I was looking at their mouth. Yeah.
Okay, when you look at them, which one is a V-shaped? Which one of them has got a V-shaped snout? If you look at their snout.
I think the right one.
The right one.
Yeah.
And you said the right one is what?
Crocodile.
And then which one has got a U-shaped snout?
The left one.
Yeah. You know, you're very right. Okay? You're very right. Let me see what others are. Crocodile with a long mouth. So the crocodile is the one on the right. Yes. Okay. So, but you know, somebody will not see the difference. Why? Because the person doesn't know. Because the person doesn't understand. In fact, if I have not even probably asked, and I've not written crocodile and alligator, and I've just asked, what is this? What do you think some people here might say? If I should ask you, what are these animals? What do you think somebody will say? Anybody? What do you think somebody will say? Ima?
Lizard.
Hey, Kofi. Kofi, I'm eating. That's for lizard. If you look at where they are, they will not really say lizard. What do you think majority of people will say if I ask what animals are these? Howard, what do you think many will say? What do you think that many people are likely to say? By the way, I appreciate those who respond to my comment or my questions. Take note. What do you think they will say? Derek.
Crocodile.
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 Yeah. That's what they would have said.
It's a crocodile. It's a crocodile.
Who's talking at me? The person is not me. Okay. So they would have said it's a crocodile. They are all crocodiles. So having an understanding will tell you the difference. So two people can write a problem. The problem is not precise and concise. It's not explicit. It has to be explicit. So understanding is important. Sometimes somebody can be presenting his work and you can see clearly that he or she himself has not gotten a deeper understanding of it. The person needs to be baptized in the sea of that research problem to be able to execute or speak it out. So practically, data analytics research is a research problem. It's a research problem solution oriented. They are applied research. So you got to break down the research problem. You got to break it down into relevant questions. For example, why are we losing sales? Not that we are losing sales, but why are we losing sales? Okay. That is key. Which factors negatively affect customer experience? Sales process positively impact customer experience. You got to understand the thing so well. So guys, all you need here is your business knowledge. So for example, if you say you want to do something about banking, or you want to measure the efficiency of banks, you must have some knowledge on banking, the variables used in banking. If you want to do something related to HR, you must have some knowledge on HR. Don't just do HR. If you want to apply your work to a manufacturing company, like car manufacturing company, and you don't have knowledge about car manufacturing, you will be stuck. Have a business knowledge, have the soft skills, have some lateral thinking skills. It's necessary so that it will help you. So sometimes it's good when you are doing something that you have. You know, once we were talking about the stock market, I teach analytics, financial analytics, and we were talking about time value of money, present value, future value. Somebody said, what's all this? You talk about annuity, you talk about perpetuity. Oh, what's all this? Because the person doesn't have that much knowledge in it. So when you have knowledge, it helps you to understand and be able to prescribe some medications, some intellectual medication, so that you can do a very good work. So try and read about the industry that you are dealing with. Not just machine learning, but also read about the industry. Absorb yourself in the industry. Baptize yourself in the sea of that industry you are dealing with. If it is sales and marketing, understand something there before you apply class strength there. All right. I know you guys understand what I mean. All right. Let's go to the next one. The next, after you've indicated your problem, is your objectives. The objectives and the aims are different. Take note. Or the aim or the purpose is broad. The objective is specific. If you look at the mouse, there is an objective as to whether to go for the cheese or not. Yes, Emmanuel.
Yeah, Doc. So I wanted to find out the gap. Do you have specific points you can write, or you can write as many as you see or you notice?
Every gap that you write, you are going to solve it. So if you know you're not going to solve it, you don't write it.
Oh, okay, okay.
So you may have 10 gaps, but you decide to bring only 4 because those are the 4 you're going to handle. So in your objective, you're going to indicate that you're going to address those gaps. If you're not going to address a gap, don't bring it. So if you can address 10, then you're bringing 10. If you can address 3, you bring 3. Now, it's important you state your aim, the aim of this study, the purpose of this study first. That's broad, before you come to the specific objectives. And the objectives will always start with 2. The specific objectives of this study are 2. And you can number it, write them in numerical form. 1, 2, to understand, to define the parameters of corporate social responsibility. 2, to estimate and measure the performance of electricity companies. 3, to investigate the impact of corporate social responsibility on the performance of electricity. So you got to be very precise with the 2. Those are your specific objectives. But by then, your main broader purpose, you would have stated it. I'll give you an example. Look at the bottom here. Okay. The main aim of this paper is to verify the reliability of machine learning models to predict. This is a paper that is already written. Reliability of machine learning models to predict default probability of borrowers using mobile money platforms in Ghana. Specifically, to analyze the difference between the predicted value and the actual value. 2, to compare the prediction performance with that of a logistic model and the final profit. So this is precise and concise. And that is how so the aim focuses on the project's long-term outcomes, while the objective focuses on the short-term, the breakdowns. And once you're able to write your objectives, you can easily write your questions. This is how you got to go. Be precise and don't make things manya. Make it pa. Now let's try to understand business analytics properly as it relates to your research. Because the thing is that one of these, your objective is going to come from one of these. You got to know that business analytics in broader terms starts from descriptive analytics. Then you go to diagnostic analytics. Then you go to predictive analytics. Then you go to prescriptive analytics before you go to wisdom or cognitive analytics. One of your objectives is going to emanate from these. For example, descriptive and diagnosis are more related to traditional business intelligence, seeking hindsight, identifying factors and causes, understanding patterns. That's the one. What happened? Why did it happen? But then when you look at predictive and prescriptive, okay, they are the core analytics. That's the grounding. That's where you are driving foresight. You know, you're looking at probabilities. You're looking at forecasting. You're looking at optimization. What will happen? How can I make it happen? Those are the ones. That is the deeper aspect. And then the cognitive is when you have done all of this, you relate with advanced analytics process with the AI capability. So the cognitive is where you are bringing managerial expertise into the picture and then making some recommendations from all this. Have an understanding. And if you are generating your work, it must cut across some of these things. Not all, but some of these things. Okay, let's look at an outline of a methodology. You see, in your proposal, we are going to give a brief preliminary methodology. You're not going to talk about it. You're kind of probably even going to bullet it to let the reader know that in this study, these are the methods we are going to use to address the research questions we posed. So you have to describe the data acquisition process. Okay, we look at these things over time. You have to indicate the data source. What type of data is being sourced? Example, if it is sales transactions, customer data, product information, make it clear. What is your time period? Is it from 2000 to 2024? What period of data are you sourcing? Where? What platforms are you using? Are you using Refinitiv Econ? Are you using World Bank? Are you using Transparency International? Are you using Penn World? Are you using, specific aspect of Kaggle? You got to be specific. You got to also justify your data sources. Why are you using this? Why are you using this variable? Why are you including this time period? Why are you doing that? That description is very, very important. And then your next level will be the data cleaning. So when you go to research methods, we'll talk about the details of each one of these. Data cleaning, data pre-processing, a lot of transformations, a lot of normalization, standardizations, splitting the data into train and test, and then coming out with your final data set for analysis, all of that. And then the specific analysis process will follow. That is when you now bring the tools, the predictive analytics and the prescriptive analytics. You have to choose what kind of model you're going to be dealing with. Then whether you're going to use supervised or unsupervised. Okay. If it is supervised, then you're in the world of regression, and if it is, you're in the world of regression or classification. Okay, you look at that. If it is unsupervised, then you are in the other end of clustering. And even when you are dealing with supervised, you still have to make choices of the specific algorithm, whether it's support vector machine, okay, whether you are using k nearest neighbor, whether you are using random forest, all of this, you got to ensure that. So again, you will learn some of these things in research methods as well as in the other. So these are the methods, these are the classification of. Some of you, when you hear some of these things, you might be running away. Don't run away, they are very easy. They're very, very easy. If it is clustering, Masa, have the mathematical formula for clustering. Don't just go and throw clustering. Methodology, you guys, you are doing business analytics. Your methodology must be must be baptized with mathematical content. Don't say that, oh, by clustering, we all know clustering. Do you know that there is a mathematical ambience surrounding clustering? Write it. Oh, write it. Write the mathematical. Write how the k-means clustering is actually done. Write the sigma xi plus d. Write it there. Put it there. So that you let the reader and explain the element of the variable. If it is Gaussian mixture, you are using hierarchical clustering, you are density-based spatial clustering, dbSCAN. Whichever one you are using, write the model. If it is a particular neural network you are using, write it down. If it is fuzzy logic, write it down. Be mathematical a bit. Don't run away from these things. The theory is important, not just using the Jupyter notebook or the Python or no. Don't just go and do the Python. Put the model there. And let me give you an advice. Sometimes even do by hand. Do a hypothetical example of the model. Do a quick hypothetical example. Let a reader know that this is a quick hypothetical example so that when you go to your real data, you can see clearly. And guys, by the time you finish the hypothetical example, you are immersed in that method that you're doing. So for example, if you are talking about specific focus, you put a formula down, give a quick hypothetical example. If it is classification, okay, and you are maybe using support vector machine, write a model for support vector machine, write the logistic regression model down, explain what the exponent means, explain what the sigmoid function means, explain all the intricacies and the nitty-gritties of all. Let the reader know, so once what being it's not only the software, and that is good. If it is a regression that you are doing, write a regression model down. If it is a nonlinear regression or linear, be clear. If it is polynomial, be clear. Let the reader know. And these things are very, very useful. So this, today I'm just giving you a quick overview of what is lying ahead of you. Now, the machine learning it goes through a process. So machine learning research, it goes through a process. For example, you start with exploratory data analysis. It might involve data processing, data description, and all of that. Then you build the model pipeline. Then you check the performance of the model using R-square, using F-test, and several things. Sometimes in the EDA, you would even have to do graphs like kernel density estimation, box plot, grouped bar chart, Boolean plot, strip plot. Bring some plots. Bring some plots. Let the reader know that you know some plots. Show the plot, okay? And indicate, explain what the plots mean. Then you can now go to the univariate analysis. If it is histogram or bar chart you have to do it. If you go to the descriptive, talk about a mean, talk about a standard deviation, distinguish when the mean is bigger than the standard deviation, what does it mean? When it's lower than the standard deviation, what does it mean? What does the ketosis, how is that different from the skewness? Be precise and concise. Understand some of these things. It's not all of them that your supervisor will have to teach you. Okay? Some of them you have to read them yourself. That is why we are going to let you do some presentation. Then learn how to train model. If you are training model, learn how to test and train model. Learn how to do cross-validation. Learn how to do split testing. If your supervisor doesn't know, it doesn't mean you should not know. You should go beyond that. Learn also how to evaluate the models, the performance, the confusion matrix, how to draw your, the four-square confusion matrix, how to use your ROC and the AUC. Learn all of those things. Some of you, you will come to realize along the line that you have to learn some of these things on your own, even if you are not taught. Some of you may have to do some basic things in exploratory analysis, like trends, where you have to analyze monthly, quarterly, yearly sales. You have to do, the decomposition of a particular data to check the levels, to check the trend, to check the seasonality, to check the residuals. Draw that graph, show it. Show the graph of the, tripartite, decomposition. show the reader, identify that. If you are doing predictive analytics and you are going to use regression, how you can apply the regression to predict future situation. Understand it. Understand it. Write a predictive model, and then know exactly. If you are doing classifications and you're going to use decision trees or random forest or log linear regression to classify outcomes, low, high, all of that, understand it. Don't only do the machine learning, the software, but understand interpretations. These are key. Interpretations are things that sometimes it takes a bit of a time to understand. So some of these things, you have to start learning them now while you are waiting for your supervisor to check your proposal for you. You should be learning some of this. Don't say that, oh, I'm waiting for us to be taught. No. Don't do that. You are the alpha and omega of your life in this respect. You got to go beyond the ordinary. Okay. Yes, Emmanuel.
Yeah, Doc. So, with regards to the objective, if we state, let's say, I'm using predictive model, I'm supposed to still specify, which type of predictive model I'm using in my objective. Is that what you're saying?
Okay. So the question is that predictive model your objective at all?
Yes.
What's your work about?
So
based
okay,
on
so
what you just said, I assume that your work is a methodological work. Is that what you're saying? It's not empirical.
yes. So I'm doing systematic analysis of bank productivity in Ghana and detecting trends in performance using the business analytics approach.
Okay, wait. So you are detecting trends in performance. First of all, how are you getting the performance? How are you measuring it?
So I'm looking at the bank's financial reports.
Yeah, but what are you using to measure the performance here? You didn't take a lot that line, did you?
Yeah.
That is the main thing, not the predictive one. Because you can't just pick something and say performance. You got to measure performance.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to know that your goal now is to assess, evaluate the performance of which companies, by the way?
I'm looking at banks.
Okay, so you want to assess the performance of banks, in Ghana. Now, you could have said that you want to measure the performance of banks in Ghana using blah, 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 isn't it?
Yeah.
Because there are several methods you can use. You can use regression, by the way, to do the performance measurement. You can use stochastic frontier analysis. You can use data implement analysis. You can use specific machine learning. But those ones are not necessary in the objective there. The objective is you measuring the performance. Okay? That is your main objective, to be able to rank them. Who is performing better than the other, Abi?
Yeah.
That is a main objective. These ones are tools. So when it comes to objective, that's not where you are going to bring the tools you are going to use for those objectives. The tools are tools. The objective is objective. The objective, when it comes to the tools you are going to use for that purpose, when we go to the methodology, you do. But unless they are the tools that you are going to use, unless the tools you are going to uniquely use them, unless you're going to actually compare some tools that you believe are better than some tools, and because of that, so that becomes your next objective. The next objective will be to compare tool A, B, and C with E, G, and F. So that becomes but if you're not doing that comparative analysis, then the main objective must stand out, not because of the tools you are using.
Okay.
The tools is secondary. But if you're going to Accra, you're going to Accra. You can use a car, you can use an aeroplane, you can use a boat, you can use a bicycle, you can use a motor. Those are tools, but the main objective is what you are going to Accra, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let the objective stand out. I don't know what you're exactly doing, but I'm sure by telling you this, it helps you to get the point that you have to shape your work.
Yeah. That's very fun.
The objective should not be so much intertwined with the method, unless you are doing a methodological advancement. Unless you are doing a methodological contribution, you're making a methodological contribution. If not, the sweet part is managerial. The sweet part is, so you're going to do churn. You're going to look at the rate at which people churn in a particular company. Okay, so you want to assess the attrition rate of subscribers in this particular bank. You want to do that, but you don't want to bring the tools you're going to use for that purpose. There are several tools you can use, logistic regression, but you're not supposed to mention that logistic regression in the objective. It will come in the methodology part. Let the objective stand out. Please, I hope you get it.
Yeah, I get it.
So it's not really nice to be seeing ARIMA, using ARIMA model, using K-means in the objective. No. Let objective breathe. Let it breathe. Let it breathe. What you can use to achieve those objectives will come later. But like I said, unless you are advancing that, okay, unless you are saying that you want to estimate the probabilistic aspect of K-means. If you want to estimate the probabilistic aspect of K-means, then that becomes your objective, because your objective is already a mathematical objective. So in that case, fine, you are advancing a methodological, algorithm. In that case, so your work is more of theoretically methodological. And in that case, you can bring that. But if you are going to use the things somebody has already done, that shouldn't come. Okay, I know you get it. Now, when it comes to panel data, there are several panel data things. I just want you to know things that are in the pipeline you'll be doing. Okay, these things I'm mentioning might look like Hebrew, but they are very easily done. You can just run 1 or 2 or 3 codes, put together, boom, all of them will come. For example, data cleaning, you can do that. Resampling, you can do that. Feature engineering, you can do that. Descriptive analytics or descriptive. You can calculate time series specific statistics like autocorrelation and co-integration, just like that. Visualization, you can look at autocorrelation plus, like that. But I'm just telling you that they have to come. Some of these things have to come. You have to test for stationarity using the Dickey-Fuller test. You have to test. So you can't go and do, some of those forecasting without checking for stationarity. So you have to check. You have to use the KPSS to test for alternative stationarity tests. At least once you now know from here that you have to do those things, when you get there and you're doing something related to that, then you know. For example, you can't be doing forecasting without showing anywhere that you didn't do time series decomposition. But there must have been some time series decomposition. You must have shown a graph of the level, of the trend, of the seasonality, and of the residual. You should show that graph. Other than that, you didn't do that. So these are to give you point notes on some of the things. For example, you're doing ARIMA. Okay. Whilst you are doing ARIMA, why not do SARIMA as well? Okay. Got to apply both the autoregressive integrated moving average, okay, to both. You got to do exponential smoothing. In fact, before you do that SARIMA and ARIMA, why not quickly do the exponential smoothing, the double exponential smoothing, which is the Holt, and then the triple exponential smoothing, which is the Holt Winters, before you even talk about ARIMA and SARIMA. So this is just to tell you that those things are there. If you are doing these, those ones are like preliminary. Preliminary. For example, if you are doing regression, you can't just get up and do multiple regression. You have to first do simple regression on the baseline model. You have to do the baseline model. Once you do the baseline model, then now we know, say, without even the multiple factors, even the simple one, the individual one can affect the dependent variable. Okay, now let me add the others. In fact, sometimes even adding the others, you have to separate them. Add firm-specific factors. Don't add the industry. Then come and add the industry to the firm-specific. So that's why sometimes you see that in some papers, they will write model 1, model 2, model 3. So the first is a baseline. The second, you have added the firm-specific factors. Like if you are doing the bank, you add the return on assets, the return on equity, the size, the leverage, the capital structure, the REX, the solvency. They become the firm-specific factors. But then when you are done, you come and add the industry-specific factors. You're going bigger. So you look at competition, you look at regulation, you look at other things. Then you can now move from industry-specific to macroeconomic factors. You look at the GDP, look at the inflation, unemployment, and all of that. So the idea is for you to know that you can't just get up and do certain things. Sometimes you have to break it down. It's the same thing with this. Before you apply long short-term memory, LSTM, or GRE neural networks, okay, you must have done some of the early ones, okay, before, because these are advanced versions of the babies. If you are doing anomaly detection, you got to use techniques like isolation forest, before you come to seasonal hybrid extreme studentized DBA test. Before you do that, and then you go to all of that. So this just to give you, if you're doing HR and employee analytics, the same thing, there are certain things you might need. Okay, I'm not going to go through that. If you're doing textual analytics, the same thing. You got to go through the different, there are kind of steps you might need. It doesn't mean that you need all of this, but it's just to give you an array of certain things you may have to check whether you have to do. You have to do data preparation, you have to do descriptive analytics, exploratory, predictive, advanced analytics. Okay, you check which ones you might need for each one of this. Okay, so guys, now, what are the types of machine learning algorithms that you might need? This slide here gives you the multiplicity of angles that you may have to explore. It's just to help you to know the exploration of your. So depending on what you are doing, if you are doing clustering, these are some areas you may want. If you are looking at dimensionality reduction, these are some areas. If you are looking at classification, those are the things. Those are the areas that you have to look at: fraud detection, customer retention, image classification. Then you are looking at classification. Okay? If you are looking at regression, then maybe you are considering weather forecasting, advertising popularity prediction, market forecasting, advertising popularity, estimating life expectancy. Those are the angles you might be going to. But if you're doing reinforcement learning, then you're looking at real-time decisions, game, artificial intelligence, learning, task skill acquisition, robotic, engineering and navigation. So this is just to give you an array of, if you are doing this, this is what you want to look at. I'll give you some tips in week 4 on some of these things so that you can apply it to your specific area, because I have so when you pick a topic of a thesis, what are the steps that go into it? In fact, I have one already there that I'll show you in the process. If you are doing supervised learning, those are the techniques you've got to look at. So if you do regression, really, it means that you may have to look at these other ones as well. And if you do classification, then so you don't just get up and do only logistic regression, okay? Because that's the only one you know. Have you considered discriminant analytics? Have you considered k-nearest neighbor? Have you looked at decision classifiers and support classifiers? Or random classifiers and extract trees? So when you say you are doing regression, have you considered these ones? It doesn't mean you should consider them all, but have you considered them? It helps you to be able to examine, to look at how, what methods you are going to consider them. Now, if you want more, then this is more, okay? This is more. So if you are in the area, this is just on supervised learning, okay? You see, the one I gave you here was supervised learning. This is just unsupervised learning. Okay. If you're doing clustering, have you looked at hierarchical? Have you considered k-means? Okay. What are the advantages and disadvantages? Okay. Have you looked at simple principles? That is simple calculations of these things. Have you examined, if you're looking at dimensionality reduction, are you looking at, PCA alone or T-distributed neighbor? So you got to look at you got to know what is there. You got to know, for example, if you are driving from Accra to Kumasi, you got to know at where will you have to stop the car and eat? What are the things on the junctions? Okay? Is it only Linda door that you can eat? What is there? What is on your pathway? What are you likely to encounter? You have to know them ahead so that you know how to execute. I know I've given you a lot, but it's just to let you know quickly that there are a lot of extents you may need to explore before you settle on one. So you don't settle on one because you have to settle on one. But you have to know what is there before you settle on one. Because if you go and settle on one, and in fact, that one wasn't good because you didn't look at other ones that were there, it will be a bit daunting. So those are some questions that you want to. Now, at this stage, and those are some references that you want to look at related to this. At this stage, I'm going to see whether you have some specific questions related to what we have looked at today. Specific questions, okay? Next time, we are going to dig more into the literature, okay, the contextual study, the literature, and all that. Any particular question that you want to ask related to this before I tell you other ones? I know Emmanuel was the one who was asking all the questions. Dr. Hanan, are you there? If you are there, if there's something you want to add to that for them. Okay, so somebody has written, Millicent says, Mohammed and Sebastian. Okay. All right. Okay, any question? Yes, Innocent. Yes, you are presenting. Innocent, your hand is up.
Yes, Doc, my question has to do, so far what we've looked at, I can see that there's a clear distinction between when you are using supervised method and when you are using unsupervised machine learning method. Now, is there a possibility where, for instance, you are in your research paper, you are doing both clustering and maybe using both clustering and maybe supervised machine learning method? Is that something you would recommend, or it's a no-no when it comes to research?
You mean mixing them?
No, use it. Okay, so for instance, you are looking at your research where you're looking at sales data. All right. Ideally, maybe the sales data, you are looking at clustering or segmenting your customers based on maybe their sales. Then maybe you use that same information, use some supervised maybe time series to predict how much they are likely to buy or revenue is going to increase based on buying pattern. I don't know if you get my point.
So yes, you can use the same, provided you have the required variables. Yes, you can do that.
Okay.
You can. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. Provided you have the required numerical variables for that work, because of course it will require some specific variable. If you have them, yes, you can do that. You can do that.
Okay. Are there some disadvantages of going that route, or it's
no? It's your objective that would define whether to go down. For example, I'll give you an example. Suppose I want to look at the impact of size on performance. Okay. And to do that, I will have to do regression. That means I have to do OLS regression. And OLS regression may be tainted with multicollinearity. So I will check, I'll support that with lasso regression, ridge regression, elastic net regression. So I've done that. And I know I'll be doing that. And then I would also want to predict that if the size is this, what is likely to happen to the performance? So in that case, I will need a regression prediction to be able to do that. That's another, method that you use, which is forecasting. But before that, I realized that the size now, I need to classify the size into small, big, and medium. In this case, I have to go and use K-means clustering or hierarchical clustering or agglomerative clustering. And then whichever one I want to use, of course, you use all of them to see which one is good. And then you use this method to now do your clustering. Before you get to the small, the medium, and then the large. And so you can now say that the small have more impact on performance. The medium don't have that much impact on performance, but the large also have impact on performance. So before you got the small, the medium, and the large, there was no small among them. They were all having, different variables. Let's say the variable is total asset. So the total asset, everybody had a total asset. You didn't know who had a total assets that classify them as big and who have the total assets that classify them as small. But you use clustering to do that before you now come and use these, categories or classes to now look at each one of them, its impact on performance, instead of just putting all of them together. So in this case, you are mixing the two techniques, but you're also using that variable, which in this case is total asset. You are using it for clustering, but you're also using it also for regression. Please do get it. Do you get it, or you have a question on that too?
No, I get it now. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, now Eves. I want to see whether one of you can answer the question for this guy. Can a research exist without any gap to cover? This one, you guys can answer it even better for me than that. Who can help address that? Can a research exist without any gap to cover? Who can address that? Who has an idea on that? And I like that question, by the way. Coco, I like that question. I love that question. I'll need more questions like this. Who can address that? Agnes, Irene, what do you say? Agnes, are you here? Agnes, Irene, are you? When they don't respond like this, then they will say that, I didn't hear you well. That's what they normally might say. I didn't hear you calling my name. I'm one, Sylvester. Agnes. Sylvester Amwa. Sylvester Amwa. Elian, are you there? Elian. Am I muted? Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
So how come that all three of them are not responding? Elian is not responding. Agnes is not responding. Amwa is not responding. What's his name? Emmanuel.
Doc,
What is
I'm
happening
here.
to your people?
Sorry?
What is happening to your people? Are they here?
I'm sure they might be around.
Yes, Derek. What is happening?
Yes, so Prof. Yeah, hello, Prof. So let me venture a response. I'm thinking because it was in line with the question I wanted to ask. I mean, a question my supervisor had asked me based on the topic I selected. So I'm thinking that sometimes you just want to explore. Maybe there's you have an interest in the topic and you want to explore and obviously add to the body of knowledge within that industry. And so sometimes there might not necessarily be a gap, or there might not necessarily be a gap in the methodology or the process, but then you just want to add to the body of knowledge. And so sometimes you want to explore and then contribute to the body of knowledge within that industry.
You can't contribute to the body of knowledge if there is no gap. You can't add to something if there is no gap. Take a bucket of water. There is some bit of water in the bucket. There is a gap between where the water is and the top of the lid. You cannot add to that body of water unless there's a gap for you to add. Derek, do you get my point?
Yes, Doc, I get you.
You cannot say that I'm still adding to the body of knowledge when there is no gap. There must be a gap. Eves, are you here?
Yes, Doc, I'm here.
There must be what?
I think no gap, no research.
Sorry?
I think the conclusion is no gap, no research.
Thank you. You got it. No gap, no research. Full stop. There must be a gap between the current water and the water you want to add. That's why you want to add, because there is a gap. If there was no gap, then you have nothing to add. Emmanuel says that not because for research to exist, there should be, there should be a problem. There should be a problem. And there is always a problem. Oh, there's always a gap. Guys, just look at the sample size alone. There's a gap there. Look at the sample size. Look at why it's not been done in your country. Why? How many people are using gold to buy dollars? There's a gap. There's a gap. Many people are rather using currency, Japanese yen, to buy dollars, pound to buy dollars, rand to buy dollars, naira to buy dollars. Now you realize there's a gap. You can use gold to buy dollars. There's a gap. That's why you have to fill that gap. And that is why he said that this is not from textbooks. So you must have a gap. And if you're not having a gap, if you think that you're not seeing a gap, it means you're not communicating with your supervisor. Guys, let me tell you how many times you should talk to your supervisor. 3 times. Do this. If you're not doing this, it's not healthy for you. You should talk to your supervisor 3 times. You must have potentially created a WhatsApp group page with your supervisor. If not, it's okay. You must contact your supervisor by emails, or if you have a contact by regular questions, And you must have a lot of questions, because when you have a lot of questions, that is when the supervisor loves to have you. You must have a gap. You must have a lot of questions. You must be passionate, man, about what you are doing. You must want it as bad as you want to breathe. And that is what will help you. Next question. Now remember that in your proposal, you're supposed to have the background of the study. You've already explained the background. You're supposed to have the problem statement or the gap. From the problem statement, you indicate your purpose or your aim. And then numerically number your objectives. Number those objectives. After you've indicated your objectives, you got to let the reader know clearly the preliminary literature review that you have got. The preliminary literature review and the proposed methodology that you are going to use to address the questions. So you must have a kind of a proposed methodology, and then the variables that you intend to use to undertake the research. You must have those variables. So if you have a particular, put them in a table form, the variables. Put those variables in a table form. Because the thing is that if you put the variables in a table form, it shows clearly that you are now on course. You are in the process of trying to, how do you put it? You are in the process of, you started a research. You are really doing the research. Okay. But please remember to bring your questions after the objectives. Bring your questions after the objective. So you must have the background, the problem, the purpose, the objectives, and the questions. Now it's easy to get the questions once you have the objectives. After the question, bring your contributions of your study. Show clearly to the reader that these are my research contributions that you have indicated. We'll look deeply into these things. Okay. So once you have your research contribution, then you do your preliminary literature review. Preliminary, it's not a giddy, preliminary. Then you do your proposed methodology. That's where you kind of bullet the methods you're going to use to address the question. And then you talk about limitations of the study. Then you give your outline, the chapter outline. And then finally, your references. That is what we mean by the proposal. And so you're going to present that next week when you come. Please be prepared. You show a slide. I want to see how you even prepare the slide. Even in the process of preparing the slide alone, we teach you on how to work. If you don't understand these steps I gave you, you can let me know, then I can repeat them. But I know you are doing a lot of writing. Okay. Any other question? Somebody has posed a question there. Are we allowed to use statistics from some blogs, articles, whilst describing the context, or we have to use statistics from peer-reviewed papers? So, okay, please, I want to understand what you mean by statistics, Eve. Are you allowed to use statistics? When you say statistics, give me an example of what you mean. Are you talking about descriptive statistics you'd have gotten from your data, or what exactly do you mean by statistics? Can you talk?
Yes, please. When I say about statistics, like when someone is talking about the prevalence of malaria in Ghana, maybe the prevalence rate is 10%. If I got it from a blog or an article, I don't know if this source can be used in the problems, the context, when I'm describing the context of the study.
Okay, I get it. Get it from journal articles first. If you are forced and you cannot get it from journal articles, get it from what we call documents, government documents, or research documents, or working paper documents. Okay. Not from blogs, not from websites. Now, even if you get it from websites, it will actually come from, what do you call it? The website would have actually indicated the source of it. So you get it from the source. Just a second. Please, do you understand?
Yes, Doc, thank you so much.
All right. Good. Any other question? All right, so that's it for today. I don't think Dr. Hanan has something to say because I've asked her. She has not been able to respond. Other than that, that is it for now. Prepare your questions, prepare your slides, and then next week, everyone is going to do your presentation. So get ready. Samuel.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask the slides we are preparing, is it going to be based on the topic we are using?
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Your research.
Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure having all of you. I wish you all the very best. Darling, I'll see you next week. Please get ready. You'll be here. I don't have a group. I don't have a group for this group. So I will use the research page, where I posted the information today. I'll use that same page for the rest of the information I'll give to you for this. So please, that's where I'll be using until you tell me otherwise. All right. Enjoy the rest of your evening and bye-bye.
Bye.